And in the midst of a fight with President Trump, Representative Ilhan Omar has introduced a House resolution this week that would reaffirm the right to boycott, quote, in pursuit of civil and human rights. The resolution is co-sponsored by Representative Rashida Tlaib and civil rights icon Representative John Lewis. Now, this comes ahead of a potentially ugly intra-party fight over another resolution to condemn the global boycott, divest, and sanctions movement, better known as BDS, over on Israel. Now, joining us to discuss this topic, Ariel Gold, National Co-Director of CodePink. Thank you for being with us, Ariel.
Thanks so much for having me on.
So, an anti-BDS resolution that's already floated through Congress, and it stirred the pot a lot on this very hot topic. First, can you give us a little bit of background on BDS?
Sure. So the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement, BDS, began in 2005 as a call from Palestinian civil society to use the same tactics and strategies that were successful in ending South African apartheid. And since then, we have seen universities across the world pass resolutions calling on their institution to divest from Israel. We have convinced companies to move out of the settlements. And we've convinced numerous artists, including Lorde, we saw Natalie Portman, refuse to appear in Israel.
So this is essentially kind of hitting them in the pocketbook, where it tends to hurt most.
Sure, and it's also sending a message to isolate them. So when we see such things as an artist refuse or cancel a concert in Israel, the country becomes more and more isolated, and the world becomes more and more aware of the severe human rights abuses that are a daily nightmare for Palestinians.
Yeah, and here, those who oppose BDS, they say it's anti-Semitic. People have accused Ilhan Omar of being anti-Semitic herself, especially after a particular tweet where in it, she mentions a rap lyric that some people have erroneously taken as being anti-Semitic. So why do you think advocating for Palestinians through this movement, through BDS, why is it perceived that way?
Well, it's perceived that way because it's successful. And so shortly after it was launched, Israel began a massive campaign to try to discredit BDS, to smear BDS. This extends to refusing entry, to advocates for BDS. I was one of those that was refused entry and deported from Israel for my support for BDS.
Wow.
Right now, Prime Minister Netanyahu has been tasked with the personal decision of whether Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib will be allowed to enter when they try to travel there just next month on a delegation to see the occupation with their own eyes. Yes, and it will be him in particular who will be doing that. And so we've seen Israel go out on the attack against the BDS movement, and that's also happened and happening here in the United States. So states across the U.S. have passed anti-BDS laws, and these have had severe ramifications. They're in direct violation of our First Amendment.
I was just going to say.
But we've seen teachers fired from their jobs. Right. We've seen contractors unable to get money for repairs after the hurricane, all because they refused to sign a pledge that they wouldn't boycott Israel. So I want to bring us back to what Ilhan Omar said. We have that one quote, and then she talked about the demand for loyalty to Israel. Well, if demanding that you sign a pledge not to boycott Israel isn't dual loyalty, I don't know what is.
Yeah, that is, it boggles my mind that we here, especially in the U.S., don't have the right to buy and choose what we want. So, it's supposed to be a capitalist society, but, there's that. So it seems as well that there's this kind of power struggle happening within the Democratic Party itself, that the progressive members, namely, we'll say the squad, as they're being dubbed now, those women, between them and the establishment like Nancy Pelosi, they've butted heads over a lot of issues. But occasionally, especially on this issue, Ilhan Omar seems to be kind of standing on her own there. How successful do you think her bill might be in light of this intra-party fight?
It seemed like she and Rashida Tlaib were very much standing on her own on this issue until this bill was introduced yesterday, and we have the third person on it. You mentioned that he's a civil rights leader.
Right, John Lewis.
So John Lewis is not only a civil rights leader, but he's been a member of Congress since 1987. And what I would say is actually the most significant thing about him is that he is incredibly pro-Israel. John Lewis is long known for his alliance with AIPAC, for his support for Israel. So his name on this bill as a civil rights leader, as a longstanding member of Congress, and as a supporter of Israel makes clear that the right to engage in BDS actually has nothing to do with one's position on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. This is about free speech. It's about our First Amendment, and we now have this incredible bill, and this is a really historic moment. It's the first time that anything has been introduced in Congress reaffirming our right to boycott Israel for Palestinian rights.
Or anybody, for that matter.
Absolutely.
All right. Wow. Fascinating turn there with John Lewis. Who'd have known? Pro-Israel, but also pro-BDS.
Not necessarily pro-BDS, but pro-right to boycott.
Right to BDS.
Right to BDS.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing that insight with us. Ariel Gold of CodePink. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hey YouTube, thanks for checking out our channel. We hope you enjoyed the video. We have tons of content for you just like this. For more of RT America's one-of-a-kind news and analysis, be sure to subscribe and never stop questioning more.